Going on, guys? MMA Mystic here to do my breakdown of UFC 308 Topuria versus Holloway that just ended in Abu Dhabi today. Pretty solid night of fights, a lot of fun fights. Main event was back and forth. Went the way that I wanted it to go, which was sad. Sad to see, but it is what it is, I guess. Starting out the night was Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Carlos Leal Miranda. Miranda won that fight. Don't really care what you have to say about that. Miranda won that fight at least 2 rounds, maybe 3. No idea how the judges gave Rinat Fakhretdinov a unanimous decision, and how any one of the judges even gave him 3 rounds. There's no way that he won 3 of those rounds. Miranda did what I thought he was going to do. Was piecing him up on the feet, landing the heavier shots, landing those leg kicks, battering the lead calf of Rinat Fakhretdinov. Fakhretdinov just didn't really have anything for him. So not really sure how he won that fight. When we were waiting on the decision, my wife and I, we thought for sure Miranda won that. I thought it was a great underdog pick. I think he was like a plus 250 underdog heading into that fight, but I knew that he had great takedown defense, great kicks, great leg kicks, powering the punches, patient, willing to stand in the pocket, and that's exactly what he did. Had Fakhretdinov on wobbly legs the majority of the fight, landing the more damaging shots. Miranda's just a big dude for 170, 5'11", but just yoked to the gills. A lot of back knee on him. Take that as you may. I don't know. We'll just have to see how the drug tests come back. But definitely won that fight. Need to fix MMA judging. UFC's getting more corrupt and corrupt. Seems like every card we've got some type of decision that is just absolute bonkers. Credit to Paul Felder for calling it out, saying that there's no way that he won that fight. Same with DC. So I'm hoping that Dana at least gives him his show and win money for that one, because that was just an egregious robbery. I know that Fakhretdinov is from that area. I don't know if that played. Let's be honest, we know that played into it. That was pretty corrupt judging. I know the UFC will never investigate that or anything, but it's just a shame. Miranda stepped up on short notice, was already training for a fight on, I think it was UAEW Warriors in Abu Dhabi, got the short notice call up, stepped up, made his claim for the win, get his spot in the UFC, and the judges robbed him on that one. So it's just kind of sad to see. Not sure if Sal D'Amato was one of those judges, but I wouldn't be surprised. But the fact that Fakhretdinov got 3 rounds and a unanimous decision is just awful. So, awful way to start the card. I'm going to count that as a win, because Miranda won that fight as a plus 250 underdog. Moving on. Ismail Nordiev versus Bruno Silva. Bruno Silva's awful. He is not UFC caliber. I'm not sure how he still has a spot in the UFC other than to be a sacrificial lamb for the Ismail Nordievs of the world. He is now on a 4-fight losing streak. Last win was Brad Tavares, which is not aging very well. Before that was Jordan Wright 3 years ago, which is also not aging well. But Nordiev got the takedowns when he needed them. Landing on the feet, just all around controlled him. So, good fight. Be excited to see where Nordiev lands next, who he gets next. I think he's an exciting prospect from middleweight, so we'll see what happens with him. Next fight was Farid Basharat versus Victor Hugo. Basharat was like a minus 750 favorite for this fight. I thought Victor Hugo would be able to have the strength on the feet, the grappling to keep him at bay. But Basharat was just the better man tonight. Had the footwork, was landing his crispy strikes in and out. Victor Hugo had a few leg lock attempts, had some deep leg locks, a few heel hooks that looked like they had some promise, but Basharat was able to get out of those and then just kind of controlled the fight from there. So good performance by Basharat. I still don't think he's elite. Love to see him get into the top 15, get a better opponent, maybe an opponent that actually had a training camp and didn't miss weight by 10 pounds. So yeah, let's see what happens when he actually gets a legitimate opponent. So excited to see him next. I think he's like 13-0, 14-0. So time to bump him up to a little bit better competition and give him a real test. Next up is Kennedy Nzechukwu versus Chris Barnett. So Kennedy Nzechukwu, I believe this is his first fight at heavyweight, moved up from 205. He's just a big dude. I think he's like 6'5". Yeah, he's 6'5", 240. So he's probably walking around at that weight, cutting down to 205, but now he gets to fight at his normal weight, not drain himself, not kill himself during training camp to get down. So if you're 6'5", 240, you should probably not be trying to cut to 205. Stop trying to be a weight bully. But wasn't really sure about this. I mean, I knew he was going to beat Chris Barnett, but I'm still not sold on Nzechukwu. He did lose to Ovin St. Preux less than a year ago. So there's that. Before that, he got TKO'd by Dustin Jacoby. Nothing wrong with that. I think Jacoby's top level in that division. But he was gifted an opponent, Chris Barnett. It's a fat slob. He's 5'9", fighting at heavyweight, probably cuts to heavyweight. What's his weight here? 264. So if you're 5'9" and cutting to heavyweight and you've got a belly and you're 38, like, come on. Like, why is he still in the UFC? You know, I don't get it. But Chris Barnett coming off of an Achilles injury, I believe, coming off, I think it was 3.5 months recovery time coming back into the UFC, which is just insane. Probably not the smartest move to make for career longevity, but I do understand he's 38. He's probably just trying to get back in there. Let's be honest. He's just showing up for paychecks at this point. So didn't look great at all in the fight. Did some spinning kicks. I think he hurt his foot or his hamstring at some point in the fight, but eventually just got overwhelmed by Kennedy Nzechukwu, who had like a 9-inch reach advantage. Gets the TKO into round 1. That was pretty much a gimme. If you were picking Chris Barnett in that one, then you need to look at yourself in the mirror. Next up, Abusupyan Magomedov versus Bruno Ferreira. This is another one I had a problem with. Magomedov, I think he's good. He's really good. He just has zero gas tank. He's got like 7.5 minutes of fight in him before he starts shooting for takedowns like his life depends on it. Had a great showing in his debut, then got fraud checked by Sean Strickland, who's got excellent pace, excellent cardio. So I knew that was going to be a factor in this fight. But Bruno Ferreira is just a dog. He's just a younger, hungrier Kevin Gastelum is the way that I look at him. Probably too small for the weight class, honestly. He's carrying a little bit more weight than he should. Could definitely cut to welterweight, being 5'10", 185 pounds. But I think Bruno Ferreira, he had him out of there. He was landing, I think he caught him with a right, dropped him, stumbled him a few times. Just the fight IQ on some of these guys, I swear. He's pushed him up against the cage, landing heavy punches, goes for a spinning back elbow. Like, why? Why aren't we standing in the pocket just throwing 1s and 2s? And why are we throwing every punch as hard as we can? If he would have kept it standing, peppered him with punches, the guy's either going to wilt from the punches or he's going to wilt from the pressure because he's got zero cardio. But what does he do? He spins, gives him his back, gets taken down, lets him recover, and then he gets arm triangle choked in the 3rd round. It's just asinine. I picked him to win as a slight dog, and he just shits the bed, throws the fight away. I think if he had a little bit better fight IQ, that fight would have gone a lot more different. I thought he had the grappling, has a lot of submissions on his record. He's Brazilian. I thought he'd have the takedown defense and the jiu-jitsu ability to get back up to his feet, land those heavy punches, but he didn't. So yeah, that was an unfortunate one. I had Bruno Ferreira as a slight dog. Up next, this was fight of the night, fight of the year contender right here. Mataush. I don't know if it's Rebecki, or Rezembeki, but versus Miktabek Oralbai. This was a catchweight. Not really sure why it was a catchweight, but I know that Hebeki he's just a monster at 155. Throws every punch with killer intent. Almost throws it too hard to where he's again, one of those guys, he's got like a round and a half of cardio, and that showed in this fight. Damn near swole Mikdebek Orlbai's eye closed during the fight. Started to gas towards the end of round 2. Was gassing in round 3, but I think he was already up 2 rounds. So I got a little worried there towards the end of round 3. I thought he was just going to completely die of exhaustion and lose the fight, but he was able to squeak that one out and get a split decision somehow. It was a split decision. I thought it was very, very obvious for Rebecca in that one, but I guess it is what it is, MMA judging. Next up, Jeff Neal versus RDA. I picked Jeff Neal. I thought Jeff Neal, he's just too big. RDA is not a welterweight. He's one of those guys who's late in his career, doesn't want to cut weight anymore. He's like 5'8". He's a thick dude, but he doesn't belong at welterweight. Jeff Neal's just a big guy. I thought that he'd have the takedown defense to keep it on the feet, and I just thought he had a power advantage over RDA. Major striking difference in Jeff Neal's favor. Like I said, he's got the power, he's got the length, the distance. I just thought that he was gonna, if he wasn't gonna TKO KO RDA, he was gonna be able to keep the fight standing and just beat him up for 3 rounds. Ended up dropping him. I think it was the first round. Ended up dropping him. RDA gets back up and then unfortunately ends with a TKO knee injury, which is probably good for RDA because I don't think that fight was going to go his way whatsoever. So tough to see. I'd love to see Jeff Neal get that knockout victory. These wins due to injury always kind of have an asterisk on them. You kind of want a little bit more finality and closure to some of these fights, but I think we all know how that fight was going to end. So sucks for RDA. Not sure what type of knee injury it is. If it's ACL, he's out for at least a year. He's already late in his career, so that sucks. Reminds me of like Cub Swanson when he tore his ACL late in his career, not even in a fight, in a jiu-jitsu match. So sucks for him, but I wish him a speedy recovery because I do like RDA. He's been one of the OGs of the game. So good win for Jeff Neal. Didn't really prove anything other than that he can beat up a over-the-hill fighter. So next up was Ivo Eslan versus Rafael Cerqueira. This was frustrating. I picked Cerqueira, undefeated striker, scary dude. Ivo Eslan lost to Anthony Turkalj, I think, which if you're an elite fighter in the UFC, you shouldn't be losing to somebody like that. But Rafael Cerqueira, he just kind of circled the cage, and as soon as he took a shot, it looked like he was out on his feet, but then it was just he covered up. Just sat there, covered up. Was a standing punching bag for Ivo Eslan, who got the TKO. Not much more to say about that one. Great win by Eslan. Still not convinced of that he's got a lot of future in the sport, but I guess we'll see. Next up was Shahabutin Magomedov versus Armen Petrosyan. Double spinning back fist. Never seen that. Never seen that work. But yeah, Armen Petrosyan. I thought he was going to give Magomedov a little bit more of a fight than he did. I know that he's got decent grappling, decent stand-up. I thought that he would potentially fraud check Shahabutin Magomedov. But Magomedov was just getting his strikes off, pretty competitive starting out, getting those quick high kicks up top on Petrosyan, but then he does the, I think it was a spinning back fist and then reverse the other side of the back fist and had a walk-off KO. So that was pretty cool. So good for him. It was a close fight going into it, and I think we all know that if it would have went to the scorecards, who would have won. So good to see some finality there and not any more MMA judging to ruin the fight. So next up was Lerone Murphy versus Dan Ige. Dan Ige's a dog, man. I love watching Dan Ige fight. He's always just down to throw down. He's great on the feet, stands in the pocket, rolls with punches well. Got a lot of power for 135, 145. Put Lerone Murphy on the ground in the first round. Almost finished him. I thought maybe you could argue that was a 10-8 round, considering he was landing the more damaging shots and almost put him away. But I can see how they gave him a 10-9. Second round, Lerone Murphy was landing the better shots. Looked like he was starting to get back into the fight. So I thought it was 1-1 going into the final round. And then I thought it was pretty even. Round 3, they're both landing shots. But then I think Lerone Murphy sealed it at the end of round 3. Got some takedowns, got some damaging shots there at the end. So he won that one unanimous 2-3. So a good fight, though. Tough to see Dan Ige. He looked so good on his short notice fight with Diego Lopez. But I still think he's got potential in the UFC. I think I don't know how old he is. He can't be that young. What is he? He's 33. He's on a 2-fight losing streak, but that's against Diego Lopez and Lerone Murphy. So no shame in that game. So hopefully get to see him back in there soon. Didn't take a lot of damage. Good performance. I know it's always rough going overseas to UAE, just weird circumstances. So we'll see. Moving on, Magomed Ankalaev versus Alexander Rakic. This went how I thought it was going to go. Ankalaev just keeping him honest on the feet, winning the stand-up battles, winning the fight kind of wherever it went. I was concerned about the leg kicks. I know that Ankalaev has suffered to calf kicks in his career. Rakic has running back legs on him and throws kicks like a you-know-what. So, but Magomed Ankalaev got it done. I know Dana was saying that he had to have an impressive showing to get a title shot, but the guy deserves a title shot. I mean, when you get to this level, the UFC, in this elite competition, you're not going to be finishing guys every fight. I know he started out with a lot of fights or with a lot of finishes. TKO'd Anthony Smith, but who's not TKOing Anthony Smith nowadays? Had a split to Jan Blachowicz. An illegal knee to Johnny Walker, then KO Johnny Walker. But then again, Johnny Walker gets KO'd by a light breeze on a fall day. So good performance by him. I think he deserves Pereira next. I feel like the UFC's kind of keeping him away from Pereira because I think they understand that he could probably take him down and beat him up on the ground. They're trying to ride that money train as long as they can. So I wouldn't be surprised if they gave Pereira Aspinall or somebody next instead of Ankalaev, but I think Ankalaev is the future light heavyweight champ, uncrowned champ. So next fight was the co-main event, Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. I thought Robert Whittaker was going to put up more of a fight than he did. That was tough to see. Whittaker looked really good against Yoel Romero, who's an Olympic wrestler, so I thought he would at least be able to defend some takedowns, tire out Chimaev. I thought he would be the more technical fighter on the feet, more tools, throws a lot of kicks, a lot of knees, got crisp punches, got that karate in and out style, but Chimaev just did what he did, came out like a bat out of hell, got a hold of him, didn't let go. Similar to what he did to Kevin Holland, but I definitely didn't think that he was going to do to Whittaker what he did to Kevin Holland. But yeah, landed some punches, got him on the ground, got that hook in, just kind of held him there. Whittaker did a good job of defending, trying to get back to his feet, and he got that arm around the chin. And at first I thought Whittaker was fine, but then he tapped so quick. I didn't know what was going on, but it sounds like it was a face crank. So I don't know if he broke his jaw or dislocated his jaw, but I think I saw some pictures on social media that he had some like teeth missing in the bottom of his mouth. So I'm not sure if he took a punch and they got knocked loose or they got knocked out, and then with the squeeze it just pulled him out, or the pain was just there, or he felt the pain, thought his jaw was broken. I don't know, but it was a scary performance by Chimaev. I don't think that, when the last time he fought? He fought over a year ago. He fought an over-the-hill Kamaru Usman who stepped up on short notice and moved up in weight and arguably won that fight. And before that, he fought Kevin Holland, who's just a journeyman. We all know that now. Kevin Holland doesn't take the sport seriously. Should be at 170, taking fights at 185. The guy should be, if he wanted to make a run, he should be cutting weight down to 170. He's not old. I think he's just on a good contract. He wants to put in exciting fights. He doesn't want to win fights. He's kind of like the Michael Chandler of the middleweight division. Before that, beat Gilbert Burns, who hasn't looked great as of late. Jing Liang Lee, GM3, Gerald Meerschaert. Like, I don't know. I just think he was ranked like number 12, hadn't fought in a year, and hadn't fought a legit 185er since 2021. He fought Gilbert Burns, who should be fighting at 155, now fights at 170. Fought Kevin Holland, who should be fighting at 170. Fought Kamaru Usman at 185, who's never fought at 185 before. And then beat Robert Whittaker, who's an undersized middleweight as well. So, it is what it is. The UFC will give him his title shot guaranteed. He will go from number 12 to number 1 and get a title fight against Dricus du Plessis. So, moving on to the main event, Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway. This was a rough one. To be honest, I had to pause the pay-per-view to handle something else going on, and my buddy texted me and kind of ruined this one for me. So I knew it was going to happen going into it, but Max Holloway looked good. He looked like he was keeping Ilia at bay with that jab. I was concerned with that takedown that Ilia got. I didn't think that he was going to use the takedowns to necessarily go for submissions or to keep the fight there, as much as to make Max think about the takedown to open up his strikes. So he did that in the first round, got the takedown. I don't really know who won the first round. I think the first and second, I think you could argue either way. I think Max was definitely holding his own on the feet. Surprisingly, I did not think he was going to be doing as well as he did on the feet. But again, it was kind of similar to Ilia versus Volk, where that first round, he didn't look like he was really implementing his game plan, so to speak, but it just seems like he's taking notes, he's making reads. You might even say he gives up that first round or allows it to be competitive so that he can find out where the holes are and kind of adapt his striking style to the fight. So third round came around. I had a feeling Ilia was going to start catching him. He was throwing a lot of 1-2s, but it's once Ilia starts lengthening his combinations, he gets to those 3, 4, 5 punch combinations. That's when they start to land, and he caught Max Holloway right on the nose, right on the bottom of the jaw, right on the nose, and just stunned him. I don't think we've ever seen Holloway stun that bad before. Stunned him, kept the pressure on him. Didn't let him recover. Didn't fumble it like Bruno Ferreira. So kept the pressure on, got him up into the fence, threw a combo, caught him with that left, and just dropped Max. At first, I thought it might have been a little premature, but it did look like he went a little limp, and his head hit the back of the canvas there. So tough to see. I had a feeling that Ilia was gonna find his chin. I know that Max is an absolute stud warrior, but he's taken a lot of damage, and I don't think anybody at 145 hits like Ilia. Maybe Josh Emmett, maybe Conor McGregor before the coke, but I had a feeling that's how it was going to go down, unfortunately. But Ilia's next level. He is everything that he says he is, and I think he deserves the props. So not sure who he'll get next yet. I think that he might have called out Volk. I missed the post-fight press conference, but I'd hate to see that just because I just think he beats Volk again. You know, I don't want to see Volk go out on a terrible losing streak. So again, great night of fights. Wish it didn't start at 8 a.m. my time, but either way, a lot of fun fights, much better than the Apex cards we've been getting. So all in all, good night. Sucks for Max. Wish him a speedy recovery. He's still pretty young, still the BMF champ. Honestly, he's got the size, he's got the frame to move up to 155 if he wanted to, but I don't think that's what Max would do. I think that he's going to get back into the hunt at 145. I don't see a lot of people at 145 that could beat him, so I think if he gets a few more wins, he could definitely get back into the title picture with Ilia, and I think he could learn from this. He was doing really well in that fight before the third round, so I don't think it'd be a hard sell to the UFC and the fans to give that rematch. But yeah, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.